she'd been talking to me since the day she walked in the building, so I thought she would be fun. And as a result of the meeting, what we learned was students need to read more, but not just, hey, here's more, reading instruction. They need time to read on their own and to pick things that they like and be given choices. And so when they can do that, they can kind of connect to the text, and they can just become more invested in what they're reading and just develop those skills. So that was, and especially develop a love of reading. And that was what we determined after this meeting here. So when we made decisions as a group, it was consensus based, and it was just kind of, what do you guys think? Do you like that idea? Well, hey, I think we should add this. And it was very informal, but very still got a lot done, and we accomplished a lot, I think, in our discussions. No formal vote. Everybody just kind of presented ideas and built off that and responded to questions. And it was really a great experience. I just can't get over it, how much I enjoyed discussing these things with that group of my colleagues there. Now, obviously, we had no power of authority for this. So what we came up with was just suggestions. Mr. Gregory and Dr. Jones, our other administrator, both have read this report, so they kind of know what we came up with. And of course, in education, it's all about the money sometimes, but there is no additional cost associated with any of the proposals that we came up with. So that's always a good thing. So what we noticed was that to increase these levels, we need to increase reading skills, but not just reading skills, but we needed to get our students to read more and to read more for pleasure, allow them to read more fiction, and just find something that interests them and then just read. And as a result, they'll just become better readers, because, and I tell my students all the time, how do you get better at something? You practice. I mean, if you're a football player, you don't just show up on game day expecting to score a touchdown. No, you've got to put in those days and weeks of practice and getting it down. And it's the same thing when you come to school. But what we decided is that, what, if all school personnel are involved in this, from, the custodian to even the bus drivers, the ladies in the lunchroom, everybody asking, hey, what book are you reading? Oh, is that a good book? What's it about? Oh, that sounds good. Hey, if you like that book, you should try this. And just to get the reading to be a cultural kind of touchstone of the school. And that's kind of what we talk about, kind of our small talk is even based around what book you're reading, and also, of course, working with parents and encouraging parents just to read, if a child sees their parent reading at home, whether it's, even if it's just a magazine article or a newspaper, just something, getting them reading, just seeing that, yeah, it is a habit that you can develop, and it's not a bad habit to have. And in doing the research, what I discovered is that parents can have a strong influence on their child's reading, even as old as 12th grade. We think about, elementary school reading to our kids, when they're little kids, but even when they're 18 years old, parents can still influence them. So if, those older kids, if they're seeing their parents reading and their parents are encouraging them to read, that's a positive thing. That's a good thing. And it's actually a powerful thing, which, is something we need to spread. So the three main solutions that we came up with, obviously increasing reading time, a block of RTI scheduling, and going back to just having that small group instruction based on what students need, and having, 10 to 15 kids in a group. Every teacher, even the counselor, librarian, everybody has a group of students that they're responsible for. And since you've got students that are based on their skills, they're more likely to kind of share out with each other, be a little more honest, and not try and, put up a front. Because when you've got a bunch of kids in a room and you've got to section them off by kids who are lacking in a skill, they kind of get a little defensive. But here, hopefully they won't. And we also want to see some increases in iReady. 45 minutes a week on that platform, just 45 minutes can increase student achievement. So we wanted to be able to do that. Now, under the supported by district mission and goal, our district's mission statement is we want to empower, support, inspire our students to win. And so that's why under there I've got inspires, supports, and empowers, because that falls along the line with our mission statement, all three of these suggestions. And of course, again, there's no extra cost. This doesn't violate any policy. We don't have to hire anybody else. We don't have to buy anything else. Everything's already in there. The only thing we'd have to do is just change a couple schedules around. And yes, it's definitely better than the current practices. All right. So I did send this out to get feedback, and what I did was I sent them out to teachers, um, and teachers that have multiple roles within our school, teachers that are also like first year teachers that are just there, brand new. I sent this out to them. I sent it out to veterans who had been in the system 20, 25 years, obviously administration, teachers who had children in the system. I even had teachers that are alumni of the system, and just to get their feedback. Hey, what do you think of this? Does this make sense to you? And overwhelmingly, everybody said, yeah, this is a good plan, Chris, Mr. Holder. This is something, this would be great if we can implement this, get them reading them more, getting them reading. And then that leads to, increasing of DOK. So they were all on board, which was just a huge relief to me. The biggest criticism that I did receive was about the closing of 10th Street, because obviously I started this in the spring and there still was a 10th Street, but over the summer it was closed. So everybody said, yeah, this is good, except you mentioned 10th Street. You need to take that out. Obviously, I also spoke with Mr. Gregory about this, and his big feedback was make sure the charts that are in the paper are very clear, and make sure that that it's clear that you're talking just about reading and all of those things. He also said, hey, we've had some changes over the summer too. We've adopted Educational Epiphany as our curriculum. We also have a reading interventionist. You need to mention those things too that are also happening, those positive things that we have at Anniston Middle School. So I did take his advice and put that in as well. So of course, increased reading time, increased trips and access to the library. I mean, we've got a ton of books in there, but they're not doing any good sitting on a shelf. They only work if kids are reading them. And also 15 minutes of individual iReady time during homeroom. And then 10 minutes of MyPath during every core class. So right there, that's going to be about 55 minutes a day of iReady. And the MyPath, that comes based on the diagnostic that they took. So those individualized assignments to help them in skills that they demonstrated that they were weak in. And so according to the iReady people, just 45 minutes a week can increase skills. So this is definitely a way that we'll see some results on this. So the increase in free reading time, Mrs. Hires, our librarian, of course, will have to oversee a lot of that, checking the books in and out. The ELA teachers will eventually bring them to the library the first time, but then every other teacher will allow them to go to the library as long as they're finished with their assignment in that class, or it's, that in between classes. Yeah, here you go, hurry up and run and swap out your book. Again, the increase in iReady time, all homeroom teachers are going to have to do that. Make sure that 15 minutes is started off, and then the core teachers will follow up with an extra 10 minutes. And the homeroom teachers will keep track of the data and the growth, and marking all of that stuff off to share. And so it's a very much a collaborative effort between everybody in the school. So some of the things that we'll be looking at, the diagnostic that's given later on in December and in March. And iReady will look for increased scores there. We'll look for some weaknesses getting brushed away. That's what we really want to see. Also, as far as like the hard data, the ACAP that we take in the spring, we'll be looking to see an increase in the results from last year when we took it. And as long as, the kids are actually reading and doing everything, we should definitely see some improvement there. The librarian is going to be obviously in charge of tracking the usage of the library and comparing usage to last year and the amount of books checked out. And hopefully we should be seeing some dramatic increases there. And periodically we'll check in with the stakeholders. Hey, how's it going? Do you think this is working? What could we do differently? And the task force will get together and discuss these results, and hopefully fine tune everything, because it's one thing when you sit down to make something like this, and then once you implement it, that's when kind of different things will kind of creep up. And so we want to be able to make it run as efficiently as possible. So the team will meet again in December and then again in March after the iReady administrations, after the winter and spring benchmarks, and we'll look for areas that we improved on. What are some things, some different areas and different categories that students are having less trouble with, or maybe even no trouble? And then kind of look for new challenges. Well, hey, now this area is coming up. We need to make sure that come up with a way to focus on this. And again, the team will also meet to go over ACAP results and compare the results. And really, the big two questions: did the plan work, and what do we need to do for next year? Those are the two questions that we hope to answer and come up with. So here's a list of references um, that were included in the research. And I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to share today. And thank you, and just have a great day.